All right, we are going to be talking about literal equations. And so your essential question or essential thought for this lesson is to create a Venn diagram to show the similarities and differences between solving literal equations versus solving linear equations. All right, so let's get started on the first yellow sticky note. So one of the first techniques that I ask you guys to do is to make sure that you read and know which variable it is that you're solving for. In this case, we're solving for h. So I'm going to take my highlighter and I am going to highlight the variable that I want to solve. And so all of these techniques regarding DCMAM, which if you remember, D stands for distributing, C is for combining like terms. This M is to move the variable that you want, in this case h, to one side of the equal sign, either the left or to the right. And then this one is going to tell you that you are going to add or subtract to the other side to get the variable left on one side and everything else onto the other side. And then this last one stands for multiply or divide, whatever the inverse operation is, in order to get the variable by itself. So what we're going to do right now, since we're focusing on the h, we can recognize that there's no distribution. It's not like this other sticky note where there is a number and then parentheses with a plus or a minus sign. So we know that there's no distribution now. There's no like terms. In order for there to be like terms, the variables have to match up exactly. And then in order for this m to be there, that m is going to say, get your variable that you want onto one side of the equal sign. Well, that's already done for us. Our h is on one side. And then we are going to either add or subtract to get everything else that's on this side over to the other side. Well, there is nothing else on this side by adding or subtracting. So that part is also done for us. Yay for us. So we are just left with undoing our multiplication or division. So this means 2 times h. So we are going to divide by 2, and h is simply equal to a plus b minus c all over 2. And that is also equivalent to h is equal to a over 2 plus b over 2 minus c over 2. If I were to break up that fraction, then those would be the same. So now I want you to try on your own. So try this and pause the video, and then when you're done, you can play the video. Okay, so again, we're going to try our DCMAM. Hopefully you can see there's no distribution. There's no like terms on this side, right? There's no similar A or B or C that you could add. And then there's no like terms on the other side. So we are already done with the C. Says to move the variable to one side. Well, if I look, that's my only H, so that one's already done. And now I have to add or subtract to the other side, getting that away from the h. Well, I'm focusing on the side with the h, so I'm focusing here. And I need to get that negative 3a over to the other side. So I need to do the inverse operation so that it cancels. And then now I'm going to simplify. So on the right side, I have 2h. But notice that I have 3a plus b minus c. And so I actually have some like terms there. I actually have now 4a plus b minus c. And now I'm done with moving that over. And so lastly, the last part is to just undo what's being done. So this is 2 times h. So we are going to divide, and then we're going to take this whole thing and divide by 2. So h is equal to 4a plus b minus c all over 2. And then if you were to break that up, it would be 4a over 2 plus b over 2 minus c over 2. One thing I want to point out to you is this actually can be reduced. 4a divided by 2 is actually 2a. So if you are to break them up, then that would actually be 2a plus b over 2 minus c over 2. So these are equivalent answers. Now let's take a look at this next one here, solve for t. So again, I'm going to highlight my t. I notice that I have distribution, so you can write DCMAM. I've got 2d plus 2t is equal to 6. Now I get to combine like terms. I notice that there aren't any like terms, so I'm done with that. I need to move my variable that I want to one side. Okay, the t is already on one side, so I'm done with that. Now I need to add or subtract everything else that's on the side of the variable that I don't want. So t needs to be the only thing over here on the left. So I need to subtract, because this is a positive 2d, I need to subtract 2d. And so I'm left with 2t is equal to a positive 6, a negative 2d. Remember, those are not like terms, so I cannot add those. And then finally, I need to undo multiplication or division. So now I'm going to undo that multiplication by dividing, and here I'm going to divide. So t is equal to 6 minus 2d over 2, but equivalent to that would be 6 over 2 minus 2d over 2, and then that actually would become a 3 minus, and then this 2 and this 2 would cancel out, and so I have d. So t, if I were to simplify that, t is equal to 3 minus d. So these two are equivalent. So now I want you to try solving this one. So pause the video, try it, and then come back. Okay, so in this one, it's a little bit different. We are solving for m, so I highlight all of the variables that I'm solving for, and right away I notice that the m is on two different sides of the equal sign. So I need to start to simplify that. I'm going to write down my acronym to help me keep track of the order. And so I'm going to distribute that 5. I get 5L minus 40M is equal to 35M plus 2. So the only thing I did there was distribute. Now I'm going to combine like terms. Focusing on this side, I notice that I do not have like terms. I only have an M and then a number. And then on the left side, I have an L and an M, and those are not the same. So I really don't have any like terms that I can combine, so I'm going to mark that off. The M says, hey, move the variables that you're looking for. So in this case, I am looking for my M. So get all of your M's to one side. So I need to either add the 40M or subtract the 35. And I just prefer to get my variables on the left. It's just a personal preference. You could do it either way. So what I have now is 5L minus 75M is equal to 2. And so I am done getting my M's on one side. Now I need to move over by adding and subtracting. So again, I want to highlight that I am getting this term all by itself. So that positive 5L needs to go away. So I'm going to subtract it so that it goes away. And so now I am left with negative 75M is equal to 2, that's a positive 2, minus 5L. And I can't combine those because those are not the same. And then lastly, now I just need to undo that multiplication. So I'm going to divide by 75, negative 75. And so I get M is equal to, now this negative, we don't necessarily like to have that negative in the denominator. The proper way to do it is definitely off to the side, and then 2 minus 5L over 75 would be how I could write that. Or, and I want to make this clear that this is an or, right? If you don't put that negative off to the side and you give it to the top, then you have to distribute that negative to the top. So that negative would be up here. I would have 2 minus 5L over 75. So that is also equivalent, but now I would need to distribute. So negative 2 plus 5L over 75. So those are the equivalent answers. Okay, just a reminder that I would like you to turn in your completed notes, including filling out this Venn diagram. Make sure it's a PDF, and then complete your Delta math assignments for this.